So, changing things up a little bit, you might notice that this is not a stream. This is a recorded video. And there's a couple reasons for that. One, I'm playing this on my PC because I was gifted a copy of this game from my Castlevania mutual and good friend Dan yesterday. And we did a few co-op runs of this game and we had a good time. But also because the last few experiences that I had with streaming on this PC were very finicky and kind of had problems. So I figured I would just record it for convenience sake. And I also feel like this game is relatively short. I don't think it would really warrant doing an entire stream of. I could probably just get away with doing a short video just to show stuff off. But what we're playing today is a little game called Vampire Survivors. You may have heard of it. And I've been wanting to talk about this game for a little bit because I have played it in the past on mobile, because this is a mobile game. But it has also been released on Steam and is soon to be coming to Xbox and PlayStation. So, what is this game? This is a game that is very much inspired by survival.io, or IO, however you pronounce it. It's essentially a auto-shooting bullet hell type game where all you do is just walk around the stage and let your character just automatically shoot hordes of enemies with passive abilities. You'll see you'll see what I'm talking about when we get into it. But that's the gist of it. It's basically an endurance test, similar to Dead Cells and Hades, where you start off the game incredibly weak and you are going to die pretty fast. And the goal of the game is to get stronger. So every time you die, the more points you get, the more you put into upgrades, and the farther you make it into the game before eventually beating it. It's one of those. But the difference with this game and survival.io is that this one takes heavy inspiration from games like Castlevania. Very much so. The music, the art, as you can see from the art of the game, like the characters that we see here, the guy with the whip, the guy that looks like Dracula, the mage chick that looks like Sypha in the background, and even just the enemy designs, a lot of the sprite work looks very similar to Castlevania, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But this game takes a lot of inspiration from Castlevania. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about this game is because despite it taking so much inspiration from Castlevania, it doesn't really advertise itself as a Castlevania game, or even a Castlevania crossover game, or even a game that tries to replicate, or even like tries to, be like a Castlevania game. It's like, oh, check out our new Metroidvania game, check out our new roguelike Castlevania-inspired game. It doesn't really advertise itself that way. It kind of just says, oh yeah, here's a vampire-themed survival-type game, right? So, I mentioned all this stuff about Castlevania. Now, we're gonna start, okay? You'll see all this stuff here about collections, power-ups, unlocks, and a bestiary down there, okay? Now, to get this out of the way, I mentioned that this game takes a lot of inspiration from Castlevania. And it does, but I noticed when I was doing my co-op runs with Dan yesterday that a couple interesting things happened. There were a couple enemies that showed up that looked very similar and very familiar. So familiar, in fact, that if I go to the bestiary, let me show you what I'm talking about. This fella. Does that look familiar to you? Well, it should, because that is the exact sprite of the bone pillars from Castlevania 3. The literal sprite, ripped straight from Castlevania 3. No edits, no adjustments, nothing. I mean, they animated it to make it look bouncy, but it is literally the same exact sprite that you would be able to recognize it if you are a Castlevania fan. But that's not the only one. I don't think I have it in the bestiary, but... Yeah, I don't think I have it in the bestiary. But we came across death in this game too. And the version of death that is in this game was actually ripped from Castlevania Bloodlines. Now, you're probably thinking, well, if this game is inspired by Castlevania, are they even allowed to do this? Well, I tried looking into it. I tried looking into this about, how this game was developed, if they even worked with Konami, because here's the thing. Usually when Konami works with a game to do a crossover, they usually try to push it. They advertise it, they try to get people to play it, they put it on their social pages, and even the developer says, hey, check it out, check out our new Castlevania crossover game. But like I said, this game doesn't really advertise itself as a Castlevania crossover. It doesn't. So I tried looking into it, and there was an interview with a developer in which he said that when he was developing the game, he only had a budget of like £1,100 to work with, in which he used that to invest in assets, music, and artwork collectively. Now, he says that the sprites came from an asset pack, which contained sprites from Castlevania, but he said that he looked over all of them to make sure that they weren't directly ripped from Castlevania, and if they were, he tried to alter them in some way. But here's the thing, I'm looking at it right now, this is literally the sprite of the Bone Pillar from Castlevania 3, and like I mentioned, there's a sprite of Death from Castlevania Bloodlines in here too. So, I don't know how exactly, like, the development of this game went, or when Konami, stepped in, because there's a DLC pack for this game that is a Contra crossover. There's a Contra DLC pack. So I'm assuming that that Konami stepped in and partnered with this developer at some point, because there's no way they'd be able to just do this without being noticed, because this is a massively popular game. Like, this is a very popular game. I assume Konami would have noticed this at some point, and if they wanted to, they could have sued this guy, because, like, again, they straight up ripped sprites from Castlevania games. And as far as I know, early in their, when he developed this game, he didn't reach out to Konami, and Konami didn't endorse this game in any way. I tried doing my research on this to the best of my ability. Now what I think what happened was, after this game got successful enough, is that Konami took notice of the game's success and saw profit in it, and just allowed them to get away with it, and actually reached out to them and said, hey, would you be willing to put Contra in your game? That's what it sounds like to me, because it makes the most sense with how many crossovers that Castlevania has been getting lately. It makes the most sense that they just be like, screw it, let them have it. That gives Castlevania some more traffic for us anyway. Even though this is blatant plagiarism, maybe Konami just didn't care, But again, I'm not trying to rip on these guys. I love this game. This is a really awesome and fun game. It's just that when we saw these, like when me and Dan were playing this yesterday, when we saw these enemies, we were like, ain't no way. They really just put Castlevania enemies in this Castlevania-inspired game. And look, there's skeleton blazes right there. Now, these don't look like they're directly ripped from Castlevania, or at least any specific Castlevania game, but these are skeleton blazes. The poses and everything look very similar, and the way they're designed looks exactly like the skeleton blazes from Castlevania. So that's another Castlevania-inspired enemy. And this, the Lost Twin, looks like another variant of the Bone Pillar, but it's not ripped from anything specifically, because this looks like an original sprite. But very much so, the Twin Snakes, that is definitely a ripped sprite. This Praying Mantis, too, also looks very similar to a sprite from Circle of the Moon, but I say similar because I don't think it's directly ripped, but it looks pretty similar to the Praying Mantis sprite from Circle of the Moon. But the game has some decent sprite work and some decent enemy variety in it, all things considered. This thing looks a lot like the, go back to it, where was it? This thing right here looks very similar to the what was it called? I forget the enemy. The thing from Simon's Quest, the swamp monsters, the poison swamp monsters, it looks like that too, though slightly edited. This thing looks like the Buer from Aria of Sorrow. This thing literally looks like the Buer. Yeah, just it feels like there's just blatant sprites being ripped from some of the games here. But again, I'm not trying to rip on these guys, it's just an observation. I'm sure that Konami doesn't care, because if they did, they would have done something about it by now with how successful the game's gotten. But it's just something funny to point out. It's just interesting to me, because I've been keeping track of the Castlevania crossovers lately, and typically when Konami does a crossover with another game, they advertise the hell out of it. They retweet their stuff, they share it, they advertise it, they do trailers for it, and vice versa. But this game hasn't really done that. It kind of just exists, and it kind of just advertises itself as its own game, as its own entity, that just happens to have Castlevania stuff in it, without really making it obvious, unless you have a keen eye, like I do. But anyway. I already got some of the power-ups here. But going into the game itself, you start off with 4 characters, but you have to unlock them. But you start off with 1 character, or actually 2. I forget, because I forget which ones you have to unlock. But you have this fella named Antonio, who looks very similar to Simon Belmont from Haunted Castle. His name is Antonio Belpaise, or I completely butchered that, I don't know how to pronounce that. But he looks like a Belmont, doesn't he? You get a whip and everything. So, yeah. Let's just start. And you get a selection of stages to choose from. Mad Forest. That is a Castlevania reference, because in Castlevania 3, there is a stage called the Mad Forest. So let's just go here and let's just show what the gameplay is all about. So, this is the game. And again, this attack is automatic. And you'll notice that there is a meter at the top of the screen that's blue. That is your XP meter. And when that fills up, you gain a level. And when you gain a level, you get access to different abilities or upgrades. I think I'll take a cross. Which is what makes you stronger. Now this is very RNG based, because you might get lucky for one run, or another run you might get completely shit luck and you might not have the build that you want. For me personally, I would like to get the Bible with the Holy Water combo. So far I've got the Holy Water. So if I can get the Bible, then that would be great. But yeah, sorry about that, I kind of just went on a really long tangent about the legality of the sprite work, because this game's history is interesting. With how popular this game is, and with how, like, inspired it is by Castlevania, it's weird that it's not being advertised as such. Like, this is blatantly inspired by Castlevania, yet it doesn't really, like, it doesn't advertise itself that way. And Konami hasn't been pushing it. Not that I've seen. And the developers themselves don't really, like, make an effort to say, oh yeah, look, check it out, check out our new Castlevania crossover game. Check out this game that was totally endorsed by Konami. You know, we worked with Konami to make this awesome game. They don't say any of that. It's just a survivor game with Castlevania assets and elements in it that just exist. And so again, I don't know, because I tried doing research on this. I don't know. I don't know if Konami ever explicitly stepped in and was like, oh yeah, here, you can do a Contra crossover for one of your DLCs, or yes, you can just go ahead and use our sprites if you feel like it. Like, I don't know what the process was, because I tried looking on the developer's, like, wiki page, and it just vaguely states that when he was developing the game, he had like a budget of £1,100, and he invested it in assets, artwork, and music. So I don't know, because like with a vague statement like that, it's like, I don't know. Because again, he states that all the sprites came from an asset pack. And somehow that asset pack came with Castlevania sprites that were ripped straight from the games. So first off, how did that happen? And two, like, if you did scrutinize the sprite work, if you did review them and claim that you did try to change them, why are there still copy-paste sprites in here? There's like at least 3 of them. There's like at least 3 sprites in here that are ripped straight from Castlevania, at least. I don't know. I really don't know. Again, I'm not trying to put shade on the guy or shade on the developers, because this is a fun game and I do like it. I'm just confused. I'm very, very confused about the development of this game. I'm trying to destroy this bat, the bat with the blue aura around it, because he gives me a hella XP. There we go. And that holy water. So we're at level 9 right now. Typically, I tend to go at like a level 20 before I die, because that's when shit really starts to get crazy. Before they really start surrounding you with a shit ton of enemies that you can't really deal with, unless you have a really good build. Okay, let's upgrade the whip. We need more of that. But yeah, you just walk around and let your character just automatically attack. Dodge enemies, dodge and weave. And again, the music reminds me a lot of like Bloodlines. It has like that kind of Sega Genesis like sound font. And it sounds very Castlevania inspired. So the music sounds great. And again, I do like the sprite work. Matter of fact, I was going to comment about this. Even though a lot of these sprites do look original, they remind me a lot of Circle of the Moon because of like the black outlines that are around them. A lot of these look like they would be right at home in like Circle of the Moon. I'm not saying they're ripped from it, I'm saying that like the stylization of the sprites makes it look like they would fit in with Circle of the Moon because of the black outlines. As far as I know, the only sprites that were like directly ripped from Castlevania were the Bone Pillar, Death, and maybe the Swamp Monster. And maybe the Skeleton Blazes, maybe? But that's a reach though. The Skeleton Blazes just look like Skeleton Blazes, but I'm not going to say that they were like directly ripped from a specific game. Same thing goes for this Praying Mantis right here. Looks very similar to the one from Circle of the Moon. I just have a keen eye, okay? I just have a very keen eye for this stuff, because I play Castlevania nonstop. I'm going to notice it. If you're someone that plays Castlevania for any period of time, you're going to notice this stuff. Okay, so we got a cross. So yeah, if you defeat these bigger like enemies that have really like high amounts of health, they'll typically drop a chest in which you can get a lot of gold, and you'll get a free weapon upgrade. Now, ideally, what you want to do is you want to go around and whip these. You want to whip those sconces, because if you do, you'll get health, you'll get coins, sometimes you'll get like a magnet that will draw all of these crystals to you. That way you can level up easily. Now for games like this, I don't know what the meta strategy would be, because I've played Survival.io before, and it's the same gist as this. It's the same gimmick. Now, I don't know if it's smarter to just keep moving around the map at a constant pace, or to just stay in one area like this and just let everyone come in at you and bunch up. Or maybe we should treat it like Zombies mode from Call of Duty, where you should just like train them, like gather them all up behind you and train them and then just hit them that way. Maybe we should try that. But no, this game's been out for a while. I think this game's been out for like 2 years. And I'm just now getting to it because I didn't have a means to... I mean, it was on mobile for a while, but I wasn't aware that it was on Steam. But now it's going to be coming to Xbox and PlayStation, and you know what? I like the game so much that I think I might actually get it on PlayStation. I might get it for my PS5. Because I do like this game, it's very fun. It is very, very addictive. Let's go for 20%. I just wish that it would embrace the fact that it's a Castlevania crossover. Like, I wish, like, the advertising was a little bit more honest about it, because if you told me that this was a Castlevania crossover, I'd be like, oh, hell yeah, another Castlevania-inspired game, cool. But it's very, like, I wouldn't say deceptive about it. It's just, like, not being very transparent about it is all. It doesn't really disclose too much about it, and you kind of play it, because I wasn't expecting to see that shit. When I was playing this yesterday with my friend Dan, when we were playing this, I was completely caught off guard. I was not expecting to see actual ripped sprites from Castlevania in this game. Like, it's one thing to have the character look like a Belmont, that's one thing, right? And it's one thing to have enemies that look like Castlevania enemies, but not really. That's one thing, because it's inspired. Like, everything that you're seeing on screen right now is inspired by Castlevania, which is fine. But if you told me that there was going to be actual enemies ripped straight from Castlevania in here, I would have been like, what? Ain't no way. I'm probably going to die here in a minute. Because now we're starting to get to the heavy shit. Yep, they're going to start swarming us. I'm trying to get rid of this bat. Here we go. Going across. Yes, and they don't call it holy water, they call it Santa water. Let's see if we can make it past level 20. We should be able to make it past level 20 at least. I also feel like I should cover this game because I think I have a few friends that, like, don't know about it. Or at least they've heard about it, and they don't know if they want to get into it or not. So I guess I'm also just covering it for their sake. Just be like, oh yeah, here's my opinion about it, and here's the gameplay. Here's the basic gist. Oh yeah, these bats are gonna fuck me up. Yep. Damn. Well. Yep, that's game over. Once you die, you die. That's the end of the run. And then you take whatever gold you have from that run, and then you invest it in power-ups. As you can see, I've already done so with a few of mine because I was playing yesterday. Let's see, but what can we invest now? We've got 649. Do we have anything? Let's go duration, why not? So, that's really it. Like, that's the whole game right there. Like, everything you just saw, that is the whole game. I mean, granted, there's more stages, obviously. There's other stages, there's more enemies to fight. But that's the game. That's everything that you're going to be doing. So, and I will say that with friends, because I think you can have up to 4 people in this game. It has multiplayer, but let me show you. It has multiplayer. If you look at the top right of the screen, it says enter co-op. But you need to connect controllers locally. Now, you could use Parsec, like I did yesterday with my friend Dan. We did Parsec. But I think it allows 4 people to play. I think so. I think it allows 4 people to play. And it definitely is more fun with friends. But you can totally play this on your own. Like you just saw me do. You can play this on your own. I just think that it's more fun when you have friends involved. And I feel like you'll make it farther, too. Because I feel like with more manpower, you tend to deal more damage. But yeah, that's my opinion on Vampire Survivors. And definitely a really fun, addictive Survivor type game, similar to Survivor EO. And I do like how much inspiration it takes from Castlevania. I just wish that it was more transparent about, how much it takes from Castlevania. I wish it advertised itself that way because I feel like it would reach more people. And again, because I still don't know, because again, one of the DLC packs for this game is a Contra crossover, but I still don't know if Konami, because they had to have, you have to. You can't just do, your own crossover with another IP without getting permission or licensing from that franchise. You can't. Like that's straight up like illegal. You can't do that, right? So I assume that Konami stepped in at some point and partnered with these developers, but I'm almost positive, 90% positive, that when they were developing this game, that I don't know if the main developer behind this game knew it, because as far as we know, he hired sprite teams for this game. He hired like a sprite team, an art team, and a composer team. And from what it sounds like, whoever got the asset pack for the sprites must have included the sprites from Castlevania, and he just didn't know. Because there's clearly Castlevania sprites in here. You cannot argue with me about that. There are. It's not that they look similar. It's not that they look inspired by it. They are straight up Castlevania sprites. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So whether you like it or not, that is like, they are in the game. So I don't know if he knew that, or again, I don't know if he did get some kind of permission from Konami. We don't know, because it doesn't state that on the wiki. It doesn't state that. I think he was even interviewed about it, because here's the thing. If he did get permission from Konami, why did he have to overlook the sprite work? Because he said when he got the sprite work from the asset pack, he had to make sure that none of the sprites were straight up ripped from the game. Otherwise, that would infringe on copyright. But clearly, in this game, there are still Castlevania sprites left over. I'm just so confused. It's a very weird situation, but again, not to throw shade at these guys, I'm just confused about the development of the game. I love this game, and I've had a lot of fun with it, but this is such a weird situation. It's very weird. But yeah, that's my opinion on Vampire Survivors. I'm definitely going to keep playing this. I might even go for the 100%. I might try to get all the achievements on it, because it seems relatively easy to do. And it's just very fun to play in general. But yeah. So that's Vampire Survivors, the Castlevania-inspired survival.io type game, and that's going to do it for me. Don't know what I'm going to be streaming next, but yeah, I just wanted to do this little video to kind of show off and give my opinions about this game, because I'm sure there were some people that wanted to see it, but yep, that's going to do it. I will catch you guys in the next one.